Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. If we could all take the remaining, I think I can still see one or two at the back, perhaps, who would take their seats. So a very, very good morning to everybody. And a very packed program we have today. This, our 11th retail conference, absolutely wonderful. Here at St. John's too, I think for the third year running. And I know this place very well as the Chief Exec of Acorns here in the West Midlands. This is a place where we each year, until 3 years ago, had our annual ball, our Remembrance Ball, which always coincided, as it happened, with Remembrance Weekend as well. Though it is really weird standing up here this morning for the first time and seeing everybody sober, I have to say. Or at least I hope I do. But there we are. Anyway, the theme for today is beyond traditional. That's a really great idea, and I know that you'll get huge benefit from that, because it is exactly that we're all having to think about as the struggles that present themselves to us and play themselves out on the high street come into focus. So I believe we'll have a very great day actually thinking of all the possibilities, and a great opportunity to hear from a number of excellent speakers this morning and this afternoon, and some of the great initiatives that are going on across the country at the moment. And of course, that gives us all a really great chance to network, which I'm sure we will all take the opportunity to do. I'd like to thank you all very much for coming from quite wide afield too. So those who've traveled long distances, I hope you didn't have to get up too early. I can feel empathy for that, since I had to get up rather early for another reason this morning. So if you have had to get up early, then welcome to you as well. To all the exhibitors, I think already I'm sure some of you have had a chance to see what's going on in the Great Hall, and absolutely wonderful stuff that is there. So absolutely brilliant that they've come to, and we thank them. And to the two sponsors, CyberTill and eProductive, for supporting this movement and this conference and making it possible for us to go. And I know that they're going to be speaking to us a little bit later in the day. Just quickly, some housekeeping, if I may. There are no firearms. Oh, gosh, I've just done exactly what I did. I did that last week too. I've just been on a firearms course for another reason. As part of the de-indoctrination of no longer being a soldier, so forgive me for that if you would. There are no fire alarms scheduled for today. So if an alarm does go off, please make your way to the nearest exit, and when you get out into the car park, you will notice a huge old tree. So gather somewhere near it, and we'll make sure that we cover that off, and we'll go on with that. If you have any queries during the course of the morning, I know that some of the EventPro people are already at the back, but you'll see the EventPro team, if you haven't seen them already, at the registration desk, and that can be, they in turn can be identified by having stripes here that are purple, which is interesting, presumably something to do with being clerical as well, which is rather nice, isn't it? Being looked after by the Archbishop's team. But there we are. Now, on your own badges, you have numbers as well, and they will show you which workshop sessions you're actually going to be attending, and you'll be instructed in due course where to go and when, and they're in very close order. I'm sure you've been told that during the registration anyway, but you can double check. Can I please ask everybody to be as prompt as they can be? It's a very, very full program today, so it would be really great if we can all get together at the right time and make sure that we push on with things as we wish. There will be a survey monkey after this for evaluation purposes. It's desperately important to us that we do produce something that is really valuable to you. So please, comments, good and bad, about what you've experienced during the course of today. You can ignore anything I say when you're making out the monkey, by the way. If you have any dietary requirements other than vegetarian, which I assume means if you only prefer to eat raw meat or something like that, please let them know also at the registration desk or at the venue staff at lunchtime. Can you please, if you wouldn't mind, wear your badges at all times? That's it, wonderful, lovely. I wasn't really looking at you, I promise, honestly. if you could wear your badge, it's just that there are other things going on in the hotel at the moment, so it would be nice to make sure that we're covered off. And please switch your mobile phones either off or to silent during the course of the day, if you would. During the various speaking parts that will go on up here on the stage, there will be question and answer sessions afterwards. Could I ask you please, because we're going to video the whole day, to hold hard until one of our lovely volunteers comes to you with a microphone. So indicate that you'd like to speak. I will do my very best to spot you in order, and someone will come and give you a microphone to ask. I know that normally when you want to ask a question, it's so exciting that you want to get straight in there and ask, but give that extra couple of seconds of patience if you wouldn't mind. Now, this is the second time this year that I've been asked to open a conference, another conference I was asked to open, and this is the most wonderful moment for me, because it's the first time I've ever been asked this question since I got involved in this absolutely brilliant movement called the Hospice movement. And the idea of this was I was going to open the conference and then chair it during the course of the day and give a little bit of a talk about strategy making during the course of the conference. And the lady chair of the organization that was running it asked me if I wouldn't mind waiving my fee. I've never been asked if I've ever wanted to be paid a fee, let alone waiving it. So, of course, I was delighted, but being a pompous old brigadier, I was able really to sort of blow myself up, and I said, no, of course not, no, you make sure it all goes to the charity, that'll be absolutely wonderful. So that was it. So we managed to get past all of that. And the conference went on, we had a good day and so on, and the lady at the end of it said that, which very gracious of her, she said, we'd like to just say a special thank you after thanking all the other people who contributed and so on. Special thank you to David, who has run the conference today, and I think she said something like tolerably well, but anyway, she said, that's good. But one of the things that's absolutely terrific is that he did this and he waived his fee, which is absolutely brilliant, she said, because we can put that together with all the other subscriptions and get a really good speaker later in the year. How are the mighty fallen, as they say. Anyway, so there we go. Right, well now I'm just going to very briefly go through a little bit of background, if I may, before we get started. So we are, as it indicates there, the national voice of the hospice movement for hospice care. And our strategic objectives in that are to be the leading advocate, first of all, for the care itself, for hospice care, to promote and support the excellence in the care that we provide, and I think that those of us who are here feel that very, very keenly if we're part of the movement directly. And of course we support those who are actually providing the care across the hospice movement. So what do we do? Well, first of all, you can see here that we have a whole range of things that support the development of hospice care right across the United Kingdom. And as far as we're concerned, they break down very neatly in a way, but they are all part of an interrelated whole. In championing the cause and, of course, in doing so, helping to improve the quality of care. We do this by supporting all the hospice people, and that's both Hospice UK and, of course, our sister organisation Together for Short Lives for those of us here today from the children's hospices. It's also a question of championing the voice. I'm sure that everyone in this room who has at some stage wished that we could be more powerful. And what we have done across the movement is to set that in motion in a way that really makes a difference. So that championing the cause while promoting clinical excellence and being able to say that is so powerful for us that we believe it is the mechanism for the future. And that helps hospices themselves to deliver the highest quality of care to people with life-limiting and indeed terminal conditions. And of course supporting their families too. We also see ourselves therefore as the national voice for the hospice care movement. And that gives us the opportunity to lobby government and position all of our hospices as leaders in providing the very best care in their local communities. And that's right the way through the trajectory of whatever the illness is. And of course, most importantly, at end of life, in the provision of end of life care. We also make sure, in doing that, in lobbying, that the whole basis of that care is high on the government's agenda. And I think that we would all feel that this year we've had a good run at that so far. Unfortunately, we're a bit distracted by the things that are going on to do with the referendum at the moment. But boy, we're going to get back into that again in the summer, I am sure. What we do as well, though, is to help the hospices to achieve and maintain excellence in their own care and making sure their governance is absolutely up to scratch. And with all the things that have been going on in the fundraising arena, there's never been more important a moment than to ensure that that governance is absolutely as tight as it can possibly be. And so we do that by offering many support programs, sharing good practice, and include a whole range of publications and practical tools. And I must say, since I joined the movement some 15 years ago now, it's always been one of those things that has been absolutely tip-top. Having been at the same time a tutor with the Open University, those two organisations, Hospice UK and the Open University, have definitely vied for one another for the high-grade nature of the publications they produce. And it has to be like that, because it's only through those kind of things that we can impact directly on the care and how it's delivered across the country. One of the founding visions of the movement was to support education and training. And thank goodness that was the case right from the very beginning. And I'm sure there are again people in this room who have benefited from it. From all that comprehensive range of education and training courses for professionals and those who volunteer as well, who work in the hospice and across the wider palliative care movement. And we do this by helping to ensure that the workforce itself is skilled up to the greatest possible extent to provide the best possible care and leadership. But it's not the only thing, because there are grants as well that come out of that part of that foundation that we established that many years ago. And these grants can be anything from actually helping towards paying for one of our professional qualifications individually, or to funding of special projects to grow and develop the hospice services. But it's also the case that we offer support and expertise to help hospices themselves manage their care and the projects that they believe are essential to their further development. Raising awareness both of hospice care and of course of the key issues that affect us as hospices is very, very important. And we do that both locally through our local media, but also in a wider sense too, right across the media platforms. And we run every year a campaign, Hospice Care Week and Children's Hospice Care Week, very, very important programs that actually do bring attention to all that's going on. And it is so essential to do that, because we need to be able to raise awareness both nationally and in the communities that each of our hospices serve. And collectively, finally, in this area, to support hospices with fundraising, and notwithstanding what I said about the difficulties with which we have been contending, collectively, local charitable hospices, and this may stun some people, it certainly stunned me when I first heard of it, but do you know we have to raise the equivalent of £2 million a day as a collective movement? £2 million a day. It's a staggering amount of money, isn't it? And it's hardly surprising, therefore, that those chief execs here in the room get a bit tetchy when the government, whether it be national or local, is somewhat parsimonious in the provision of the funding for that. So one of the final things that we do here is to make sure that we support every part of the movement in that whole business of income generation. But today we're going to look at the retail side of things, and it's quite proper that we should, and I'm delighted to see so many people here today, and that for me is a measure of how important you all regard this as a conference, and I hope that we will please you with what we actually put together during the course of the day. So far as hospice retail itself is concerned, You've heard of the Retail Steering Group, I'm sure, and Lynwen's going to talk to us in a second, so I won't say any more than that, but you will have an opportunity to meet all of them during the course of the day. It's also, of course, a chance for us to work with the whole business of hospice retail to provide ourselves with a forum in which we can actually share ideas throughout the day, referrals, see how things are going in our own areas, learn from one another, and so on. And of course, this is an annual conference, so it brings us all together. And it is amazing, actually, when I think about it, that this is, 11 years have passed since the first one took part. Our partnership with Carillion is producing good results, both in volunteering terms, right across the shops, and it'd be interesting to hear during the course of the day those people who've actually taken advantage of that. But in whole other areas as well, like masterclasses in sustainability and so on. And actually putting together a retail grouping that truly understands the charity that you're raising income for. And I don't think there's any doubt that there is a real sense of common purpose here. But have no doubt, ladies and gentlemen, that the charities for whom you are providing this contribution value you to the greatest possible extent. Certainly in my own case as the chief executive at Acorns, I regard what our retail team produce for us as absolutely vital. Not just in the physical sums that they are able to accrue during the course of a year, and boy, that's been tough up here, and I'm sure it's tough in other places too. But in a way, we should never forget, and I'm sure no one in this room will forget, that they are literally the shop window of the charity. They are the mechanism through which the charity actually exports its own way of things to the public and the communities that it serves. And so desperately important that we do that. And therefore there is this absolutely vital link to the core purpose of each and every charity. And I think that that's one of the things that I particularly value so very greatly. And I'd love to hear more about that from others as the day goes on. Okay, so that's where we are. I'd like to ask you, if you would, as the day goes on as well, whenever you have a chance, please do visit all those exhibitions in the marketplace in the main hall. There are plenty of breaks during the course of the morning and at lunchtime, and that way you will show the exhibitors just how important their place with us is as well. And there is a stand, a Hospice UK stand, just at the entrance to the Bruton Street, where you can actually find the actual marketplace. It would be very nice to think that you can speak to all the people who've come to be with us today, but please, if you are unable, make sure that you make contact at least with somebody within each of the exhibitions. And the steering group itself, I think, are all wearing their little sunflowers. And so I think without more ado, what I'd like to do now, if I may, is to hand over to Lynn Truesdale, who's from St. Giles's Hospice, who is the chair of the Retail Support Group, just to give us a few words, if you would. Thank you.
Well, welcome everybody. Just to reiterate what David has said, it's so good to see so many people here, both new faces and familiar faces as well. I won't say old faces, it's familiar faces. As David says, I'm the chair of the Retail Steering Group. I've been in the charity sector for 18 years. It's a fantastic sector which is ever changing and ever challenging. So with that in mind, Hospice Retail has an estimated 2,500 charity shops, which actually represents 25% nationally of all charity shops. So it's imperative that the remit of the Retail Steering Group is there to raise the profile of hospice retail. We're a real collaborative power together, 2,500 shops. As David reflected, we are great at sharing best practice. The conference today is an example of that. We've got many people here sharing their ideas and their best practice. The regional groups that we hold also are an excellent forum for best practice and sharing. The corporate partnerships that Hospice UK have developed quite often bring us volunteers, stock and practical advice. Also collaborative working. We'll hear shortly from Robin from the CRA, but again it's important that Hospice Retail and the CRA, the Charity Retail Association, work together. We are this afternoon going to have the open forum sessions, which gives you an opportunity to interact with us, feedback on the day and actually influence the way the Retail Steering Group, the projects that we work on. I'd like to just take a moment to introduce the rest of the Retail Steering Group members. So firstly, if I can ask Elizabeth just to identify herself. Elizabeth Palfreyman, she's Hospice UK National Support Manager, and she's basically the glue behind the Retail Steering Group and make sure it all sticks together. We've got Simon Dodd. If I can ask Simon to stand up. Simon is the South East representative from... Sorry. Northwest representative from Clare House Hospice. Get it right. Trevor Johnson, Havens Hospice, South East representative. Have I got that right, Trevor?
Yes.
Okay. James MacDonald from Dorothy House Hospice, Southwest representative. We've got Graham Richardson, who was the former North East representative, who's now actually a co-opted Link member and sits on the Charity Retail Association and the Retail Steering Group. So again, encouraging the collaborative working. We've also got a Scottish representative, Susan Cooper, who's unfortunately not able to be here today. David touched on the regional hospice retail groups that we facilitate. So they're a really important part of networking and moving forward. We generally meet 4 times a year. As mentioned, sharing of information and ideas. We tend to change the venue and the host, so it's a really good opportunity to see other hospice locations and also see other hospices' retail operations. If you're uncertain or haven't been contacted about your regional group, please come and visit us on the Hospice UK stand today, or there's details in your conference pack about email contact for Elizabeth to actually let us know you want to be part of your regional group. The conference last year was an opportunity to introduce the Hospice Retail Survey. While the overall response rate was quite disappointing and question participation was random, it was worthwhile doing as it actually provided a baseline for future surveys. So although the conclusions were very broad, what we learnt was hospice retail is a significant income to the sector. However, we need more generalist information on income, expenditure and profit. Hospice shops give public the awareness of hospices. Quite often, the only interaction that a customer will have with the hospice is actually walking through our shop's doors. Another unique way is our shops actually allow donors to connect in a non-cash way. And we all know that the volunteers that support us, they give us time so freely, we certainly couldn't do it without them. So with this in mind, we're intending to repeat the survey, and we're going to launch a new survey, a simplified survey, on the 1st of September. And this will be sent through email links through Executive Online, Income Generation Bulletin and promotion through the regional groups. So as reflected, this will show the sheer power, the strength and the reach of hospice retail. As I said earlier, an estimated 2,500 shops and 25% nationally of all charity shops. We know the hospice retail sector is innovative and quite often the market leader. What's great is we have the autonomy to develop and the uniqueness of product to entice our shoppers. From today, you'll pick up ideas and support to enable us all to keep moving forward. So, as the title says, going beyond traditional. Thank you.